What's going on, guys? I'm Chris, and this is Regular Guy Training. So today, let's just go ahead and talk about this. For some reason, Aimpoint decides to put out very, very little in the way of variants for their flagship products. The biggest ones, obviously, being their larger optics like the Aimpoint Comp M4, and their significantly smaller, more successful optics like the Aimpoint T2. Now, what strikes me as interesting about this individual optic, this one right here, the Comp M5, is that this probably would have been far more successful if this optic had come out in about 2012. Back when the battery section of Walmart didn't have all of the really odd batteries that we stick into optics now. And additionally, its limitations would have been significantly more overlooked in comparison to essentially what is its flagship and older sibling, the T2. Now, it's rather obvious that over the last few months, I've been going through a bunch of Aimpoint products, and in this particular case, I don't really understand why this optic even exists. Like, it made sense for the Duty RDS, even though there's a lot of things about it that I don't particularly like. But with this one in particular, I question why it's even here. Maybe Aimpoint just got a lot of different requests for a particular optic, and people kept badgering them for it, and maybe some guy just said, screw it, I'll put this thing together, but I'm also going to do just enough to make you hate it, so you go back to the T2. And at least that seems to be the case with this one. Because as far as just stuff that's confusing as far as why certain things are there, I don't really get it. So let's go for the upside, and the upside, honestly, is that the thing just works. It works very well. I've seen it work for long periods of time. The one that we have, I've seen work for quite a while and do very well, both in classes, individual training, etc. Anytime I've ever had to do math with these turrets, the math is accurate, especially with the fact that, well, there doesn't seem to be any changes as far as how the thing functions between it and the T2. Glass clarity wise, it also seems to do just fine as far as the night vision performance is concerned. And as far as using a AAA, okay, great. It's got really good battery life, and it takes a slightly more common battery than the 2032 that we're used to using. And I guess there's the added benefit of being able to stick what essentially amounts to a remote battery from like your Roku or something in it, and it will work, I guess. And quite unlike the Duty RDS, this does just fine as far as trying to place it on an Aimpoint T2 mount. The only difference between it and the T2 really is where the battery is located, and the fact that it looks basically like a miniaturized Comp M4. No big deal. The part that annoys me just enough, honestly, to steer me away from it, but not enough to sell it if I've already got it, is the simple principle in which red dots or optics in general are founded and why it is that we use them. Now, let's make this nice and clear. Optics do not exist for you to shoot better. They don't make you shoot better, at least. What they do exist to do is help you see better. If you can see better, it assists you in applying your fundamentals. So right here is honestly my primary contention with the Aimpoint Comp M5. It seems that the design principles as far as its brightness options are just confusing to me, because if it had the same number of options as the T2, I would literally have no problems with it whatsoever, and in fact, I would recommend it quite a lot because they seem to come in a little bit cheaper than their T2 cousins. But there again, the reason why they're likely cheaper is because nobody buys them, and I theorize that the reason why nobody buys them has nothing to do with reliability, accuracy of the turrets, or any of the nice things that I just came up with here. I personally believe that everybody's problem with the Aimpoint Comp M5 is the same as mine, and that is during the day or at night, you seem to have two functional brightness settings at any given point in time. Both of these, during day or night, low light, night vision, or just broad daylight, there seems to only be two brightness settings that actually work, regardless of the number that it says on the tin. It would also seem that these two brightness settings that you are able to use only come in two different flavors. Just a little bit too bright, so it messes up my reference on the target, and I just kind of take what I can get, or just a little bit too dim to where every single thing that I shoot at better be really far away. The dot itself better contrast really, really well, And even still, if there's other things in the immediate area that amount to basically anything in the world, and that includes, for instance, the clay that's out in Georgia or Tennessee or Kentucky that has that slight reddish brown hue that sort of messes with your ability to see a dim dot, you're basically out of luck on the dimmer setting altogether. So depending on time of day, there may only be one that you can actually use. Now, admittedly, these are minor complaints. I can get it done with this optic, and I can get it done pretty well, but in comparison to the stuff that actually exists out there that competes with this regularly, I personally just wouldn't go with it. If we're talking about optics that I could use that are in this price range, man, I could so much more easily get an EOTech, which is infinitely better at shooting things at any real distance. Review on that's coming soon enough. Or, of course, yet again, I can get an Aimpoint T2, have significantly more brightness options, and all the other advantages that I just put up. Look, I swear I'm not trying to beat on things that are anything other than an Aimpoint T2 or an Aimpoint Comp M4. But it seems like Aimpoint is determined to make me hate every single thing that isn't this optic. And frankly, the way that things are, I wouldn't be surprised if that was the actual objective. But at the end of day, bottom line, what do I honestly think about this? I mean, it's fine, I guess. If you already got it, there isn't really a reason to get rid of it. It's just either I'm going to squint to find a dot or to ignore it, I suppose. But is it really like an offensive amount of brightness setting? Not really. It's just barely annoying enough to comment on, frankly. As far as everything else, I mean, it's basically a T2. I don't really have any other issues with it. So, I mean, if you're looking at one and you really dig the aesthetic, especially if we're looking at just trying to pick up something that looks like a tiny Aimpoint Comp M4, I mean, cool, go for it. But if we're talking about competitive options or stuff that's out there that you could get that gives you more for less, or if you want to spend more to get more, I mean, this isn't even really an optic that I would personally look at if that's the case. So at the end of it all, I mean, it's okay, I suppose, but that's not really what I'm looking for if I'm looking at an Aimpoint. I'm looking for the flexibility, I'm looking for the good brightness settings, I'm looking for the crazy battery life, which this does have. I'm looking for the good glass clarity, and I'm looking for accurate turrets, and frankly, this is missing one of those things. So that's all I really got as far as the review on this thing. Nothing crazy, but there's other stuff that's coming on down the line. For instance, as you probably noted, a Jackal review is definitely coming. There's a VRN4 review that's on its way, so those of you that are fans of the 416, you might be interested in what I have to say on this. An EOTech EXPS3 review is coming, an RC2 review is coming. There's a lot of stuff that's on its way. And as far as classes and that kind of stuff is concerned, we have Pennsylvania, Ohio, Georgia, Indiana, and a bunch of other places that are hosting us to do classes and stuff. In addition to that, it's a variety of classes. Aside of our standard open enrollment stuff for pistol and rifle, we also have a vehicle class, a dedicated AK class, and several others. So if you want to come out and get training, absolutely check out the website in the description below. If you want to support us through Patreon, you absolutely can do that. It helps us continue to do this. And if you want to get something out of it, $41 a month gets you as much training as you personally want to come out and do. The only thing that doesn't cover is logistical nightmares, such as vehicle classes or private classes, for which I think is fair, both for A, the logistical nightmare, and B, the simple nature of a private class. And if you don't want to sign up monthly, but you still want to support us in some way, whipping a super thanks at us is absolutely a way that you can do that as well. But now that my plugs are done, and now that this review is done, I'll just say this. Remember, guys, a regular guy's firearm is the last defense against tyranny. Be easy. Better watch out, boy. He thinks that I'll never run him over off of his belt with a play carrier again.